Franco, you mentioned the defensive problems the other day. Is there just something fundamental that the guys aren't getting, or is it an effort problem?
It's not an effort problem. We've had too many games, not enough practice days. I know we live in a culture and a society where we think the games, oh, it's all about the games. Games are irrelevant unless you know how to practice. And we've got a bunch of new faces on our team that, since we have not had the amount of practice time that you need to play structured basketball, not just rec league basketball, attention to detail slips, lack of repetitions, creates slippage, which then puts a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of pressure on your leadership, and our leadership right now is still not established. It's kind of, it's not bad, but it's just not what it needs to be. So that's why we haven't played real well. And, you know, when you have so many games and such little tight windows, you can't run them into the ground in practice. And you don't get the practice time to get the amount of repetitions that you want. And with young players, I've heard Will Muschamp say this a lot, that football's a developmental sport. Well, so's basketball. You better get repetitions so guys understand timing, spacing, attention to detail offensively, and the defensive energy that you have to play with to be successful in our system. We just haven't had the practice time, and the practice that we've had, we just, you know, maybe I should have run them into the ground leading into the Temple game. And when I mean run them into the ground, I don't mean put them on the line and run. I just mean like run a real 2.5, 3 hour practice, because we got so many young guys that I tried to protect their legs. Heck, that didn't work against Temple, and we regressed going into UMass. So I should have just handled last week a lot better.
£2, somewhere around there from the last time he played at Delaware. And obviously he's still adjusting to playing with that weight. What went into him gaining that, and where do you think he is in that process and I guess what's the timeline do you see him kind of adjusting to it and getting to a level where he needs to be at?
Just confidence in his leg. To get to the level he needs to be at is confidence in his leg so he can he's practicing a lot better. It hasn't translated to playing better in games. Like he had real good practices going into whoever we just played, UMass. Real good, as competitive and as consistent as he's been. Obviously, there's still a little doubt there. The weight he's gained is not preventing him from playing well. I don't know if that's kind of where you were going with your question. The weight he gained is because he actually was introduced to the weight room the day he stepped foot on this campus. He had no idea where the weight room was at Delaware. So, you know, there's no way you're going to play unless you're Tyler Ulis, and they're few and far between. There's not too many Tyler Ulises out there. You're not going to succeed playing SEC basketball weighing 150 pounds or whatever he weighed when he got on campus.
Coach, in your opening statement there for your first question, you talked about leadership hasn't been maybe as consistent as you want it to be. Do you target a guy then in the locker room or two? I know you don't usually like going in and picking who needs to be a leader, but at this point of the season, do you feel it's important maybe you sit down with a guy or two and try to push him in a direction to get this team moving in a direction you see fit would help this team moving forward?
No, I do the opposite. I do the complete opposite of what you just asked. They have to raise their hand and take on leadership responsibilities. And we got guys that are trying to do that. I've got to help those guys. The guys that want to act like leaders, I got to shut them down to make sure that their voice becomes irrelevant, because leadership is not something you talk about. Dwayne Notice was an unbelievable leader. Dwayne rarely opened his mouth. Rarely opened his mouth. But yet at night, he'd have every player in a group text message telling guys what he needed them to do, what we had to do better, what guys needed to do, how many guys going in the gym to shoot balls at night. But he rarely spoke in a meeting, rarely spoke at practice. But, it's but I saw the group chats or whatever, so I see what Dwayne was expressing on group chats. So that's the way he led. Sindarius was the other way around. Sindarius was on point. Sindarius, if you were a teammate and you did not know what you were doing, he would not let you get in practice. Like, especially on days where he knew that I wasn't tolerating silly mistakes. He said, no, you can't get in, stay out. And that's leadership, So guys that are trying to, and then the thing with those two guys, like you guys always ask me, I don't know if you asked me specifically, Joe. You've asked me about my job, but I don't think you've ever asked me about, I don't think you ever asked me about if I should take Dwayne out of the lineup. Here's the thing. You're in the middle of the season. Guys go through good days and bad days. Shooting the ball. It's part of it. Dwayne would shoot a gazillion basketballs every single night. I didn't ask him to do it. He did that on his own. That's why I'm not taking him out of the lineup, because he goes 3 for 20 over a 3-game stretch or whatever. We got guys that don't understand that. They don't understand how that works yet. And the guys that should be leading us in that category are not doing it. So if they try to speak up, I'm not going to let them speak. I'm the complete opposite. I don't tell people who needs to lead. I help the ones that try to lead and the ones that want to create that perception when coaches are around that they're leading. I'm not going to let them lead. And I'm going to let it be known that their voice is irrelevant until they change whatever it is that does not allow them to be good leaders.
Frank kind of touched on this earlier, but how would you evaluate your guard play through the first month or so of the season, and what does Hassani have to do to kind of develop and keep getting better running the point?
Yeah, inconsistent. It's just plain and simple, inconsistent. Our guards played a lot better the first 2 weeks than they've played the last 10 days or so. Inconsistent. Part of it is they're all new. They're all brand new. That's why after the game the other day I said, Justin Minaya is our best player. Not statistically, not just in consistency with his daily understanding, approach, and that's, it says a lot about him because he's been our most consistent player. But our guard play has not been bad. It has not been great. It's been good at times, and it's been other times. But that's part of the lack of practice. That's part of everyone being new at that spot. The inconsistent is probably the word on both offense and defense. Inconsistent is the word probably comes to mind.
Frank, Wyoming on Wednesday. What does Alan Edwards mean to you?
Yeah, I've known that family. Doug, who's on my staff. I met Doug when he was a young ninth grader, and right at the beginning, that summer leading into ninth grade, and I never forget Laura May, their mom, basically calling me and my boss at the time, Shaky Rodriguez, and I'm not going to use the word she used, but basically said, I'm giving you my child. I don't expect to ever get a phone call from you. Just make sure this dude don't get in trouble. And in today's day and age, that's pretty refreshing. A parent that just kind of trusts the coach into being their coach and to educate the child. We never got a phone call from Laura May. Unbelievable lady. She invested all her trust in us with those children, all three of them, Doug, Steve, and then Alan at the end. I remember coaching Alan as a ninth grader on JV basketball. He's kind of a combination of his two older brothers, Doug and Steve. Doug was very serious, very reserved, very quiet. Steve was very outgoing, joking, laughing, engaging, and Alan kind of was a mixture of both. And real proud of him, real proud. You know, after studying his team yesterday and earlier today, I see why they won 20 whatever games last year. He's got them playing good basketball, which I'm not surprised. Very, very. I can't tell you how proud I am of that whole family. I was with Steve down when we played FIU, and you know he's coaching high school ball, but that's part time. He's works for a guy named Alex Frazier full time during the day, and has become a tremendous leader in that community down there. And obviously, I think the world of Doug. That's why I hired him, and he's been incredible in helping our guys and our staff, and now Alan, the job he's doing. You know, it's a whole lot of fun.
Frank, you've had two freshmen obviously make a really big impact so far. Do you look at that as a really positive thing, or do you wish that maybe you weren't having to rely on them quite so much?
Got no choice. We got freshmen; they're going to have to play. It's we recruited them. You know, we expect them to do well, and going into this year with so many new faces, there's opportunity for freshmen to contribute and play well doing so. You know, it's outside of Justin right now, our freshmen are not being consistent, and biggest problem there is lack of practice. You know, it's final exams can't get here fast enough for me. You know, good thing is that this week we only have 2 games instead of 3, so we'll get 4 good practices in and go play 2 games, and then I think right after that we start finals, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not smart enough to look at the calendar that far ahead, but it's. Justin's been good. Felipe has not played. I don't care. I think I said this after the game. His stat line might look good against whoever we just played, UMass. He did not play well. And we need to engage him to play better. That's our job as coaches.
This might sound like a dumb question.
It's never a dumb question. And if it is, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so I'm the right guy to ask it to.
How do you, historically in your career, how do you coach a guy to stay out of foul trouble? And is that a mental thing after a while? Like, does Chris fight that from time to time? And how do you get him to play loose without thinking about that all the time?
No, it has nothing. It's never have. Never have. That's why I'm disappointed in him, because we're still battling the same things that he did as a freshman. And that's, you know, I said it here after the game. His fouls are not blocking shots. I think his 4th foul was on a baseline drive that he tried to contest a shot. His fouls are just grabbing, pushing, holding. The guy with the ball's dribbling, go up there and bump him. They're all irrelevant. They're bad plays. And that has never changed. That has never changed. And that's his, you know, leadership. Whatever, that's leadership, you know. It's plain and simple. Dwayne Notice, as a freshman, committed a lot of hand check fouls because he was being asked to do something he had never done before, to guard up there a certain way. Well, as he played games and went through his career, you think back to his junior and senior year, he never hand check fouled, and he was the best on-ball defender in the country. You know, that's leadership. He grew. So now the younger guys are watching him, and they're saying, oh, wow, if he can do it, I need to do it too. You know, and you know, that's Chris has to do a better job there. Chris is a great kid. Don't take that as me trying to be critical of Chris. You know, but I'm frustrated with him and his inability to grow in that department.
Questions, guys?
I'm guessing consistency and more practice might be along the lines of the answer, but over these next few weeks before you guys get into league play, what do you hope to see from the team as you guys, you know, get ready for that portion of the schedule?
Consistency. See, there's this phony misconception and I say this all the time in a joking manner, but it's reality. Fans love freshmen. Oh, he's the new guy. He's the savior. He's the one coming in that's going to change the world. They've got no clue, none. They don't understand the strength, the speed, the detail, the structure, the consistency that you got to have in how you approach a practice to have a small chance to succeed in a game. They don't understand roles. They don't understand how to be a part of it. They're so used to being the whole thing. And, you got seniors. Seniors get it. Seniors have the sense of urgency. They know how to practice every day. They know how to approach things. They're not worried about their last play. They're worried about the next play. Freshmen are still too wrapped up on the previous play. They make a shot, they think like, okay, I arrived. I don't have to do this anymore. It's coming easy. Then they take a bad shot, or they don't know the next play or the next whatever it is that you're trying to do. Defensively, they break you down. It is what it is. It doesn't mean coaches don't like freshmen. It's hard to win with freshmen. I coach, I've said this plenty of times. Everyone thinks it's a joke. Outside of my first couple of years here, my worst record as a head coach was with 2 first-round NBA picks on my team because we had 9 freshmen, Michael Beasley and Bill Walker. Hard to win with freshmen. It's not their fault. It's not that they're bad guys. They don't show up and like make it miserable for people. They just don't know. So you got to practice. For example, like this time of year, I really don't pay attention. But in my off season, I do listen to everything that's said and written, and especially by our people that cover our school. And I sit there and I read and heard all the stuff, and I've got no idea. It's not like Will and I are calling each other to speak about our teams. We do speak a lot, but I'm not asking him on how he manages certain breakdowns, and he's not asking me on how I manage stuff over here. But we do speak a lot. He's playing a lot of true freshmen. I can only imagine that someone's supposed to run a down and out, and the guy runs a square in. And all of a sudden, it's everyone's fault. And it's a freshman that doesn't understand because he just doesn't have enough repetitions. So consistency. I've gotten to a stage in my career where the expectations that are created for a game are not fun. I love practice. That's where you get better. You don't get better in games. You get better in practice. You learn how to prepare in practice. You know why NBA teams, think about this. I'm not real smart, but I pay attention to a lot of stuff. You know why the bad NBA teams are bad? That's exactly right. They're bad when the season starts, so they don't get to practice. So they never get better. You know why the ones that are good? Because they're good when the season starts. So they understand how to take care of their bodies. You can coach them through film, through walkthroughs. They understand all this stuff. There's a greater sense of urgency to how to do things. So the teams that are good when the season starts, they're good in January. The teams that are bad are going to be bad all year because they don't practice, so it's hard to get better. I've gotten to that stage in my career where the games are not a whole lot of fun for me anymore. I'm being honest with you. I love practice. You tell me practice 10 times a day, I'm as excited in number 10 as I was for the first one. You tell me I got to coach 3 games in 3 days, I'm exhausted by the 3rd day. And that just comes with the whole perception that's been created about game day. Game day should be fun. And unfortunately, the number of voices that these kids have in their heads, like last year, game day was fun. Why? Because I had a bunch of old guys that led, and I had young guys that were oblivious to the nonsense that's being created. So they came in and practiced the same way every day. We're trying to learn that with this team right now.
Coach, just going off those same lines, so what do you feel is like you've been through this before, you've had young guys, you just talked about it. So what's the hardest part you think for you, and how do you typically handle things like this where you have young guys and you love the practice, how do you get them to love the practice as well in the process so you guys can start enjoying games more like you did last season?
This team likes to practice. We just haven't had time to practice. So we've slipped. And when you don't have, it goes back, think about it, I just told you about the NBA. You know, the teams that have great leadership, they got like winning players. They're good at the beginning of the year, and then you coach them through film, not through constant repetitions on the court. And then by the end of the year, they're better without having to practice as much. But you're also talking about professionals that are grown men that get paid a lot of money because they understand the game. But yet, if you ask the real good teams, when they're not playing well, ask them what they look forward to when they have a window between games. They want to practice so they can clean up some of the mess. You know, these kids like to practice. It's not like pulling teeth out there. We just haven't had enough practice time over the last couple weeks. And, you know, and I thought Thanksgiving week was good for us. I was the 3 practices we had going into FIU, I felt real good about them. I think if you remember the way we played to start that game, it showed that. But then we went to the bench and we had slippage. And when we had slippage, then you require leadership. And the leadership kind of, you know, and that's what we're trying to figure out. We're young. We're trying to figure all that out right now. But these guys like to practice. We just need the days so we can be consistent and then not be worried about we're going to be a little tired or whatever. Just and show film and just, you know, the time requirement thing. I keep hearing all these people say that we put in too many hours. Are you kidding me? Please. You know, it's hard to get better. Who gets better at their job working 20 hours a week? I can tell you this. If one of the guys on my staff works 20 hours a week, they wouldn't be on my staff very long because they're not getting better at their job. And and I get it. They go to class and study and all that. So I understand. I just can't wait. I'm cool with it. I'm not trying to say we should practice 30 hours a week. Don't misquote me on that. I'm just saying that with 20 hours a week, there's only so much you can do with so much youth. That's all I'm saying. Once we get the finals week and the week after where now there's no time limitations, and we can go in the gym with them like they don't understand how to come in the gym at night to shoot balls. Well, now that, you're coming in with me, and we're going to go in there and just shoot balls, be in their head a little bit. We're going to watch film together. You know, all those things right now go against the 20 hours. So everything you do there takes away from your team practice time. Thank you.